Mr. Plant,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How's it going?
You know.
Don't be
It's
too enthusiastic.
it's I don't know. It's a self-imposed prison sentence kind of
Yeah,
thing.
all day in front of a computer, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here in the booth. You can see all the stuff's everywhere.
Yeah, looking sharp.
It's good. It works, I guess. It sounds like a great idea when we're planning it. It's like, yeah, we'll do it for 4 days. And then we kind of felt bad, like, oh, it's going to be shorter than San Diego. San Diego, we did 5 days. Like, maybe it won't be as good. Maybe I can't fit in as many interviews. Maybe we need more time. And then we're talking about decon next month. And I said, oh, it's kind of, it's going to be a 3-day thing. And then Jenke looks at me and he's like, yeah, 3 days is good.
Yeah. Quality over quantity, right?
Yeah, indeed. So let's start at the beginning. Can you just introduce yourself? Tell people who you are, what you do, how to
Yeah, my
find
name
you.
is Jeff Wysocki. I am Obvious Plant on Instagram and every other social media account. And I started that account the idea was to make fake things and put them out in the real world. I started with like street flyers, putting that stuff out, funny little street flyers, leaving them up outside. And then I got bored with that and I started making more signs and leaving them inside stores. And then the next step was creating actual fake products. And so kind of stumbling upon this amazing community that you are part of and I have become a part of. I was inspired by Sucklord and others to start making my own and put my own spin on it. And it's from there, it's kind of taken off. And I make mostly toys, but also like food packaging and other weird products and do some small runs of them. And they seem to be a hit. Yeah, can't begin to explain how lucky I feel to be able to do it for a living. So
Kind of amazing, actually.
yeah.
All right. But am I correct? You started out as a stand-up comic.
Incorrect.
Right? Incorrect?
Incorrect.
No, you're not a comedian?
No, I've been doing like web comedy for over 10 years now. I had a website called pleatedjeans.com.
Okay.
Sold that a while ago, but I did like
I said stand-up comedian. What I was stand-up comic. I meant comedian. You were
comedian. Yes.
You're a comedian. Yes,
General comedian.
I misspoke. And then somehow you found yourself into making these products, and then now, am I correct? This is your primary, like, do you still do pleated jeans, or is this your primary kind of like medium?
It's my only source of income, Dove.
Is
I only make money from this. So yeah, I sold pleated jeans a few years ago and sort of transitioned into Obvious Plant. And yeah, I sell mostly toys, but also like t-shirts and stuff through my web store. And then I've done some branding stuff as well for some brands. So all of that together.
I think this is the first time I ever was aware of your work.
That was one of the very first ones. I think
I thought it was hilarious. I didn't get it at the time. I got this from you later, but I was like, this is amazing. And I didn't know until I like actually got onto Instagram. And I'm going to say that, I don't want to toot your horn, but like you have like 500,000 followers.
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
yeah,
if you don't say so yourself. I mean, and so you talk about the Sucklord, and I don't know how many followers he's got. 50,000. You have like 10 times as many as him.
Yeah, I mean, I come at this from a bit of a different background. So as a comedian, I can make things that I don't know. I've spent a long time figuring out like what I like and what works on the internet, and I've sort of melded those two things together. So in a way, like there's these things are fun for me to make and in my vein of humor, but they're also very shareable. And so for a lot of other toy artist, it's like for Cyclord, it's like an artistic thing. It's like a work of art, and it's beautiful to look at, but it's not necessarily something that someone's gonna that the masses are going to want to share with their friends. So that's really the only difference between why I have more following than anyone else, is because my things get shared more, and so more people find me.
Right. When I explain things to people, to other people, what we do, who don't know, and they have no idea about any of this, and then you just say, do you follow Obvious Plant? And they're like, of course I follow Obvious Plant. He's hilarious.
Oh,
Yes,
well, that's
so
nice. Yeah, I'll say from my perspective, I have no easier job explaining to people what I do for a living. It's like, it's way too hard to put it into like a phrase. I can't just say like the equivalent of accountant. It's just not possible.
So when you were at my house, and then the suck lord walked by, and I introduced the two of you, and then do you remember that interaction?
Yeah, vaguely. Why do you say? Why are you bringing this up?
Because I had to like. He's like, he kind of gave you the same reaction to that he has to most people. It's like, hi, how are you? It's kind of like, thank you for saying hello to me. Who are you? Should I know who you are?
Yeah.
And he kind of says all of that in a look. And then I had to explain this is Obvious Plant, and like he does this and this. And he's like, a big deal. And then the suckler looked at you and he's like, oh, I see. And then he kind of walked away.
Yeah, I know he's a bit of a personality, so really bother me too much. I'm not sure what he thinks of me, if he even does. So that's fine.
I don't know. I don't know that he knows.
I think he follows me, but
does he? Okay.
I think so.
I think his biggest fear is what I just said, is that when you describe the medium to a noob, saying like, hey, let's say, hey, what do you do? And he says, oh, I make custom action figures. And like the worst thing that could happen to him in his life, if someone comes up to him and says, oh, you mean like Dano Brown? And then he's like,
yeah.
And so he gets a little, and he's got, no hatred for Dano Brown or you, or, but he gets like a little miffed, like, and I explained to him that that's totally normal. Like, no one is not acknowledging him, his contribution or his godfatheriness of all of it. But
I totally understand. Like, yeah, because he has created this medium essentially, and of course it's going to expand because it's such a fun medium. But
as with most, kind of like pioneers in just about anything, it's always someone else that comes along later that really like takes that and like figures out the right way to do it, and like becomes, it's like for every, broke blues artist, who died penniless, there's like Led Zeppelin, you know what I mean? It's like,
so you're saying I'm Led Zeppelin? Is that what you're saying? Or has that person not come along yet?
So let's talk about your museum, because was that last year? That was
yes.
before this madness?
Yeah, March of 2019, yeah.
I mean, since Sarah and I had kids, like we don't get out much, but we went, we drove all the way downtown or wherever that was to
the middle of nowhere in Los Angeles.
The middle of nowhere, that museum that you set up.
The cheapest place I could find to put it.
And that was, I mean, of all the places that we went all year, that was kind of like the highlight of like all of the places I went that year. Like it was, well, obviously I'm biased, right? But for you to have taken, can you just describe it to people? I wish I had pictures to show people right now, but it's like, can you describe what you were trying to do and what you did?
Yeah, so kind of the whole trajectory of Obvious Plant has been, taking fake things and putting them into the real world. And so I went from signs to products, and the next obvious idea for me was an entire store, an entire visual experience. And so I came up with the idea of doing a fake museum of toys. And so the whole premise of the museum was that, let's go through the history of toys, everything from like, here's early toys from primitive times. The first one was a stick, of course, and then I moved up through the decades and then focused mostly on, like the 60s, 70s, 80s to today. But every toy in there was something I made up. It's something like covered in Spider's Man or other crazy ideas. And I treated the entire thing like it was all real. So each toy had a little placard, and it had like the year it came out, and like a few little funny facts written for it of like, it came out, blah, 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 blah. And it was basically just as many jokes as I could fit into a room as possible. So yeah, it was an amazing response. I'm glad you enjoyed it. A ton more people came out than I expected to. It was like very successful. And it was great to actually interact with the people who are my fans, because you put something up online and I might get some good comments and stuff, but to actually hear people standing at the counter and hearing people laughing in various sections of the museum was great. So it was definitely a great experience.
Right. I guess like being if you describe yourself as a comedian, your job is to make people laugh. And if your primary medium is work that while it is making something physical, you are still putting it online, and you do get comments and likes and all that kind of stuff. But I guess it's not the same as, that was kind of like a performance in a way. And then just, I guess, to hear people actually react is, I could imagine like the frustration, like you put something funny online and it's like, it's not the same as making a room full of people.
Yeah, it's definitely a much more personal connection to the audience. And it's definitely a different, I don't know, it scratches a different endorphin in my head for sure. It was also great seeing the range of people who came out. I kind of tend to think I have a weird sense of humor that, a certain type of person will enjoy, but there were, entire families came out. There are people like with kids who'd come out and say, well, we share your posts with them whenever they come out, and we all laugh at them. So yeah, it was nice to see the broadness of the audience that I have garnered.
So in the show, and you had, I guess what appeals to me as a Star Wars, bootleg collector, were the Steve Wars figures.
Yes, of course, those would be your favorites.
Those, of course, and not my favorite, but that's what I collect. So it's Star Wars kind of keeps me on like the straight and narrow. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because otherwise, like, there'd be no limit, right? So it keeps me like kind of like focused. Otherwise, I'm going through the room like thinking like, what's the best one in here? Which is the one that I need to have? And this is easier. I just go, oh, look, there's a Star Wars reference that fits into what I do.
Yeah.
So Steve Wars, you took those shitty 90s Power of the Force figures.
Yeah.
And you call it Steve Wars, and you just named everybody Steve.
Yeah. Yep. That's the idea, and people liked it. I mean, a lot of my idea, like, especially late, like in the past, I've sort of transitioned into like dollar store toys. It's like these ideas are so stupid that it's like taking those unintentionally funny things from dollar store toys and making them and doing them on purpose and trying to do them as funny as possible. So misspellings and stupid ideas. And so, yeah, in thinking of doing a Star Wars thing, there's been so many bootleg Star Wars toys that's like, I don't know if I even want to touch this because every angle has been done, and so I don't know how that one came into my head, but Steve Wars, the galaxy where everyone is named Steve, I was like, that's an obvious plant version of the Star Wars bootleg world. So yes, I'll make that and see what happens.
So then I was thinking of getting one of the ones in the show, and you kept like, no, just da da da. And then eventually I just called you. I was like, okay, this has gone far enough. I don't own an obvious plant toy. I have to have one. We're doing a book. I needed something Star Wars. Like, so you made me, of course, some Cantina aliens.
Indeed.
Named the galaxy where everyone is named Steve. And this is Cantina Steve. And then there was Cantina Steve and Cantina Steve. And finally,
Who could it be?
Cantina Steve.
Yeah, you got all four.
It was kind of amazing, but I think the back also is kind of legendary because, you know, here you have like Steve. This one's Evil Steve, but then Steve, Lady Steve. So apparently, yeah, Steve,
Gotta
Steve
mix it up a little.
3PO, R2, Steve 2,
Yeah.
Steve Trooper, and Steve.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It is possible that I did this whole series just to do R2 Steve 2. And I was like, oh yeah, Steve 3PO works. So yeah, those two were definitely like my favorites just because of the play on the Steve term. But yeah.
And was the reference to Steve like anything in particular, or you just?
It just sounds like Star. You know, it's all about a lot of the things I do is like, how does this sound rolling off the tongue? And, you know, if it's a parody of Star Wars, it's got to sound similar in my head. So Steve Wars is where I ended up. It's the closest common name to the word star.
Wow. So a lot of the stuff that you're like physically making an object, and then do you have like a store set up in your place and then you put it there, you take a photo, or are you actually going to a store?
Yeah, so up until the pandemic, I was actually going into stores. Depending, so there are a lot of things I would make just one of, and I would take a picture of it and I would actually leave it in the store. And so for a while I would just do that, and Lord knows what happened to it. Probably got taken down, thrown away, or found by someone. And so eventually I was like, it's kind of a shame that these are just kind of getting lost to no one.
Right,
who
because if someone goes to buy it from you, it's like $500. So like, why would you leave it in the store?
Right. Well, now, yeah, things have changed a bit, but this was early on before I knew anyone would pay that much for something I made. But so, and then I would start like, you know, on Instagram telling people where I left it. And so it was kind of like a treasure hunt for people to go find it. And then the pandemic happened. I was like, I don't want to encourage people to go out in the public for no reason. So I just started taking pictures of them at my house and putting them online. And so I wouldn't do that with all of them. I would sell, like, I would say half of them. And then if it was something that I was doing a run of, I might still leave it in the store. And so I haven't left anything in the store and given it away for free in a while. I would still go back to doing that perhaps, but it is definitely harder for me to do mentally, considering I could sell it and make $400 or $500.
So,
but it's still fun to give away sometimes.
I mean, do the store managers like know you and they just see you and that you're just walking into a store with a product that is your own, you're putting it in there, taking a photo, and then what happens to someone who tries to buy it? Like,
I always tell them it's up to them. I got it in there, it's up to them to get it out. As far as I know, no one's had any issues. No one's been arrested. I know people, from what I've heard through Instagram, is they just take it. I think a couple of them have like walked up to the counter and been like, hey, here's what's going on. I'm just going to take this. And they're like, okay.
Because they don't know what's going on. There's no barcode on it.
Yeah, there's no barcode on it. I think it's pretty easy to tell that this item doesn't belong in Target or wherever I left it, yeah, from my perspective, people are always like, how do you get these into stores? Like, haven't you ever gotten in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And there have been like very few encounters. I've been leaving stuff in stores for like 4 years now, and I've had very few encounters where anyone even notices. No one's going to notice. Like if there's a security guard or an employee, no one's expecting someone to bring something inside and illicitly
there.
shelves. They're looking for people to steal. So it hasn't been an issue, but it's kind of a weird it's a weird business model, that's for sure. What's my problem? I don't know.
So is everything that you post for sale? Is there a difference in price point between the one of a kind items versus the, like what I would call an edition, something you make a lot of?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of things I just do a one-off of because it would be too difficult to make more of.
Mhm.
And those, yeah, those are the high ticket items that generally go for like $400 to $500. And then I'll do like smaller runs, like if I can pull something together that's like 30 or something. I did like a recent one was Super Best Christ Jesus Force, and I just bought every single Double Dragon action figure, two different of the Double Dragon action figures I could find on eBay. And so I did like a run of 30 of those. And those will go for a little less, like in the $80 range, depending on how much it costs and how many I'm making. And then I'll do runs of like 300 or more, and those will be in the like $20 to $30 range.
Mm.
And I'll just mention that Weird Dogs is probably coming back then, so maybe you can get that grail.
You've just
but I
made
do,
Janky's day.
yeah, another
Weird Dogs.
So, I mean, did you have, I mean, these things are not easy to make. I mean, you have to have like some skill and obviously some, some Photoshop and design skill. Like, I mean, did you grow up wanting to be a comedian? Did you have an art background? Is it something you were naturally drawn to, or did you have to learn this on the fly?
Yeah, it's all been kind of learning on the fly, especially the crafting of an actual product. I mean, growing up, I couldn't even imagine like doing a creative job, and I wouldn't say I was necessarily a exceptionally creative child. I wasn't into drawing. I didn't like do painting. I did like played with action figures, but that was the extent of it. And then going into high school, I actually went to college for marketing, which I don't like. I kind of use, but like not like I kind of figured it all out on my own. I really didn't need to go to college for that. But coming out of college, I realized the one part I liked about the business world was like writing and that copywriting and advertising. So I started out as a web copywriter, and I just hated the business world. And I was like, I gotta do something else. And I always, I guess the main thread for me is I always was like a funny kid. Like I was pretty witty in conversations and I liked making people laugh. But I was also very shy. So I never like was in theater or did like videos and stuff like that until much later. But yeah.
Are you serious in saying that, like, I mean, you mentioned marketing and my reaction was like, ugh, like I know people in marketing, it's just, that's rough. But
yeah.
To say that like your work, I mean, it's not influenced by marketing. I mean, that like you're an example of like what they should be teaching in marketing school. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? I mean, that's building something, from nothing based on fake marketing, like that. I don't know, like
yeah. No, yeah, because I'll look at like I don't know, I think back, it was like coming out of college, like I want to be in advertising, I'll write commercials and stuff. And I look at that stuff now and it just makes me cringe. It's so I don't know, they do a bad job of it, is disingenuine, and it's selling people crap they don't need. It just seems very like a terrible industry for over consumerism.
Sure.
But so I guess what I've done
so what I decided to make was
crap that no one needs. Yeah, but on a much smaller scale. And I don't make enough to where, I keep it small. At least that's how I rationalize it in my head. But it's fun stuff that I like to make. And I guess there is like business aspects in terms of like what I do, but it's much more from a creative, genuine standpoint. At least I hope it is.
Okay. So I noticed something about your work, and I haven't. Sarah has another piece of yours that she showed on the show the other day. It was the 8-track tape, the Hail Satan. And so when you gave it to me, I asked you to sign it, and it's like, and then you're like, I remember what you said to me. You're like, I hate my signature, and then you kind of you begrudgingly signed it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then when these showed up, they were not signed.
You didn't ask me to sign them, so I didn't sign them.
I mean, But just as a statement that this is a piece, that this is art and not just like a product, like, shouldn't you be signing your work? Just
Perhaps. I know that you've been trying to get me to do that for years now. And I think I've said in the past, from my perspective, I'm trying to replicate. I'm trying to put a fake thing into the world and make it look real. So there's not going to be a signature on a real product. And that's kind of where I come from with it. And also, I hate my signature, and it's never consistent. It's just a squiggle. As soon as I signed your one thing, I was like, I should wish I could do that again, because it was. So part of it is just like an embarrassment for my signature, but part of it is that ruins the visual lens of it being like an actual real product.
I have a
and then part of it is like, who would ever want to make one of these, without a signature on it, or without some sort of certificate of authenticity. I see your point of view, though, Dove.
If you have something that's selling for $500, presumably that price is eventually going to go up, and then as soon as it is lucrative for someone to recreate something, and there's an opportunity to, they will. All right, I have a workaround for you.
Okay.
Is you get a hologram made, a little sticker with a serial number, an Obvious Plant logo, and you get them printed in triplicate with a serial number on it. And then what you do is you make a certificate that goes with everything, and you put the one sticker here, one sticker on the certificate that you signed saying this is a one of a kind or one of 50 or whatever. And then the third one goes in a logbook that is your backup copy to document, for authenticity's sake, for posterity, to leave to your heirs, for the Obvious Plant Foundation after you're dead.
That's not a bad idea. I kind of like that idea.
And then that way you don't have to sign it, but it lets people know that there's an accompanying piece of paper that goes with it, that is signed, that authenticates it. And I posed this concept to the Sucklord because he's like notoriously doesn't sign his work, and most of that shit's like photocopied, and like when it gets down to it, it's going to be easy to bootleg. And he wanted to like make in a book, write down his formula for what pieces he used, for the head and for this, and kind of make like a recipe. And I'm like, don't do that, right? Or else someone's gonna go buy this, and I use the blister from this, and the head from this, and the legs from this, and it's like, you can leave that for me, but do not share that. That's death. And then I told him about the hologram idea and the certificates, and he's like, how do I make money from this? Why would I do this? And I said, you show up at a convention and you have your shit ready to go, and then someone comes up to you and they want it authenticated, then you can charge them $25. You put the hologram on it, you sign it, you write what it is, you put it in your logbook, and you authenticate it for them. And then you have like 15 years worth of work that you can start authenticating for $25 a pop. And he was like, yeah. It's like, I can make money for doing nothing.
I don't know. This could be this. I like the idea, and maybe Morgan doesn't sign his things for the same thing that I don't. Is it just adds another step to the process, and it's just, I just want this to be. I want to move on to the next thing, and so I like the idea of holograms. But then it's like, oh, then I gotta like write a letter to everybody and then sign it.
No, you just start now. You start at a certain point, and there's going to be kind of like a delineating line where everything after this date started to be logged, and everything before. And
that's what I'm saying. Going forward, I have an extra step in the process for everything I make.
Oh.
Look, I'm an artist, and I don't like extra steps.
Like the extra step of getting in your car, driving to Target, getting out of your car, smuggling something into a store, finding a place to hang it, taking a photo.
Fair point.
All right, so
I don't do that anymore, at least not till the pandemic's over.
So what's next? Like, is this it? Like, have you achieved like, you know, fame and stardom, and are you living the dream now? You support yourself with your work. Like when you're 80, are you going to be doing this also? Do you aspire to something else? Do you really want
Uh,
to write for Hollywood, you know?
I wouldn't say I really want to, but I mean, I used to do videos before Obvious Plant, and I did a video for Obvious, like one video for Obvious Plant a few months ago. And it's actually, I've been talking to some Hollywood people about like doing a pilot, and so that just got finished and got sent off to people to look at. So yeah, actually that might happen, but I wouldn't say that's my primary goal. If it happens, cool, I can do that for a season or two, or for a while. Maybe that leads to other things, but the whole idea is um uh
But
I don't know.
does that fulfill the comedic bug? Is the whole goal for you to be funny? Like for a lot of these other artists, I think it is to make something and to connect with, because probably that's all they can do is like make this thing, and someone buys it and enjoys it, derives some pleasure out of it. And um but is the purpose for you, is it the comedic value? Like if you did this and could make money but it didn't make people laugh, would it, would you want to do it?
Yeah, that's definitely an important aspect of it for me. In anything I make, the first thing I ask myself is this funny? So that is the first step into, that's the first hurdle into being like, will I enjoy making this, and will I be happy with it when it's done? So yeah, the whole goal is to make people laugh, and I've just channeled it into this weird medium. But you know, as my time with toys has gone on, I become more and more uh, in, ensconced in the design aspect and the, you know, craftsmanship of it. So I've tried to make more difficult toys. You know, you know, in terms of like pretty much everyone else in this world, am very lazy in the actual product, like the actual figures itself. I basically, often most of the time, I just repackage stuff that I buy. But you know, I've done like some kit bashing and head swaps and stuff like that, and painting, gluing spiders to a Spider-Man figure. But yeah, so yeah, you know, and I've tried to move, you know, beyond just like a blister pack. Let's make an actual play set. Let's wrap an entire box so it looks like a real like other toy. Let's do plush animals. Let's do rack toys. You know, I've tried to come at it from as many angles as possible so I don't get bored, and so it continues to get hopefully more and more impressive in terms of like how it looks and the quality of it. And so in terms of like, regardless of whether I like do TV or make more videos or anything, I'm happy to just continue to push myself to make do larger runs of toys, do more involved versions of toys, you know, and push myself. I think in general, just like as my comedy career has progressed, you know, I'll do something for a while and then I get bored with it, and I'm like, okay, how do, like, I've done science for a while. What can I do now? Let's make an actual box. Okay, let's actually make a product. And so the transgression has been, keep let's keep being funny, but let's not get bored. So that's what keeps me moving. And so if that means, you know, moving into TV or something, then that's a new avenue for me to be funny, and a new way for me to not to be bored doing the thing I like doing.
Do you think you'd ever go like the Ron English route and do billboards and, you know, other sort of installation art?
I've thought about it. Yeah.
It's expensive.
It's
I mean, unless
expensive.
you're Ron English and
Yeah.
you go up there in the middle of
Yeah.
the night and you.
Yeah. It's expensive. I have thought about the idea of doing a billboard. It's just like, it would have to be a really good idea to spend that much money on it. But yeah, I definitely loved doing the Museum of Toys. So like more installation things, you know, obviously that's on hold now too, but the idea of doing more experiential things is also definitely inspiring to me.
I am looking as a aspiring book publisher, as I've told you, who's not really published a book ever, which um, I've published a few things, but it seems like of all the things that I want to do in life, that I always equate that if if I came to you and I said I wanted to get in the fax machine business, like it just, makes
Yeah,
no sense.
it's gonna be a
But
good one.
it's
Yeah.
something I aspire to do, and I'm looking forward to the day, if even if I'm not involved with it, that there is an obvious plant coffee table book, because that I don't know if it's like reflecting a period of time, or kind of the overview of the career or whatever. But I think that's I find just the technology and like the Instagram and the Facebook, it's all like it's all very fleeting. It could go away. It's very hard to get to go and enjoy older things. There's just a lot of scrolling,
Hmm.
and something about a book and turning like page to page and being able to see, you know and to tell a story with the images, that whole process seems is very appealing to me, as uh, I don't know, as a collector, as someone who likes to
Hmm.
experience these kind of things. So
Yeah, it
maybe.
would be cool to have a book. From my perspective, and I think I've sort of hinted at this with you before in the past, of like, it's like I would that would involve, like setting aside a big chunk amount of time to put together a book, and that's working on stuff that I've already created, and so it's like keeping me from doing new stuff. And
Sure.
so I would rather, like, personally, like if that book could come out and I would have to do minimum work, great. I would love to have it available, and it would be really cool for me to own one myself and look at it and be like, look, this is my volume of work. This is really cool. But in terms
Right.
of like putting it on the hierarchy of things I want to do, I'd be like, I'd rather move on and make something new, is kind of just like my perspective on
You'd rather slide down a razor blade into a vat of battery acid.
it. I wouldn't go that far.
Uh-huh.
But it's not outside the realm of possibilities,
It's good to hear. All right, dude. Well, I really appreciate the time. It's really, I find your story like inspiring, not just for me. I hope everyone else does. How you've sort of set out on this goal, and just the medium that you work in, and how you've just channeled it and make a living at it. It's really a fantastic story, and I'm surprised that, like, marketing schools are not inviting you to speak.
I appreciate it, and I feel honored to be a part of this community. In some ways, I still feel like an outsider coming into it from the outside, but everyone in this world is super nice, and yeah, definitely inspiring to me, and has helped mold the way I do all this stuff. So I'm happy to have a friend in you and have made friends with other folks in the community.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for
All right.
having me.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.
Isn't he amazing?